When my flight was delayed, I was stuck in an airport, frustrated, restless, and pacing near Gate 47. A 2-hour delay flashed on the board like a personal attack. You ever have one of those days where everything should have gone smoothly, but life just decides otherwise? That was me. Laptop open, coffee cold, calendar ruined. But later, only later, I realized that delay wasn't a disruption, it was protection. The airport was buzzing with complaints. People were sighing, shaking heads, calling loved ones. Yeah, we're delayed again. No idea when we'll leave. One guy near me slammed his laptop shut. A woman was trying to calm her toddler while juggling luggage. It felt like time itself was mocking us, and I wasn't any better. I had plans, meetings, a connection flight that now looked impossible. I remember thinking, God, really? Today? I'd woken up early, double-checked my itinerary, even prayed for a smooth trip. So when the delay hit, I felt like God ignored my prayer entirely. So I sat there, annoyed, scrolling through emails to feel productive, as if busyness could distract me from helplessness. Then something strange happened. A man next to me struck up a conversation. He was calm, too calm for someone whose flight was delayed. He said, "You know, sometimes the best flights are the ones that don't leave on time." I gave him that polite smile that says, "Please don't start preaching at me right now." But he continued anyway. He told me about a time his flight was delayed 3 hours. He missed a major meeting he'd prepared for months. He was furious, until he found out later that the connecting plane had encountered severe turbulence, forcing an emergency landing. Then he said, "I used to think delays were denials. Now I see they're sometimes detours toward protection." I didn't respond, but his words stuck with me. It was like God was whispering through a stranger. "Be still. I'm doing something you can't see yet." 2 hours later, we finally boarded. As I buckled in, I overheard 2 flight attendants chatting quietly in the back. Apparently, the previous flight on our same route had experienced a technical issue right before takeoff. They had to ground the plane. I froze. That was supposed to be my flight. If it hadn't been delayed earlier, I might have been on that same aircraft. And just like that, all my frustration melted into gratitude. What I called a setback was actually safety. What I thought was God ignoring me was actually God intervening for me. I realized then, God's timeline isn't built on convenience. It's built on care. Sometimes He delays the flight to protect your future landing. Sometimes He reroutes your plans to save you from unseen storms. Proverbs 16:9 says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." Because He knows that if we controlled the timing, we'd often rush into something we're not ready for, or something not ready for us. Delays can mean protection from harm, preparation for what's next, or positioning for a purpose you can't yet see. Think about it. Joseph spent years in prison before reaching the palace. Moses spent decades in the desert before leading a nation. Even Jesus waited 30 years before His public ministry began. God doesn't waste waiting. The waiting room of life is still part of His plan. So when you're grounded, when things aren't taking off like you hoped, don't assume God's forgotten you. He might just be repairing the runway. I think back to that airport often. Every time a door closes or a dream seems delayed, I remind myself of that gate, that stranger's calm voice, and that unseen technical issue. Now, when I face delays, I ask different questions. Instead of, "Why, God?" I ask, "What are you protecting me from?" Or, "What are you preparing me for?" And every single time, I realize that his no or not yet wasn't rejection, it was redirection.